Hello students, welcome to the English class by Nusrat Jhan. In this class, we are going to do your textbook Flamingo's third chapter, Deep Water by William Orville Douglas. This chapter is an excerpt taken from the book Of Men and Mountains by William O. Douglas. It is appropriately entitled as Deep Water because in this chapter the author recounts his fear of swimming, how it developed and how he overcame it with strong willpower and determination, taking the help of an instructor. The title also signifies that his fear was deep-rooted one. In short, the title Deep Water is appropriate. Today, in this class, we will do about the author, theme of the chapter, background of the chapter, explanation, and practice questions. About the author. William Orville Douglas was born in 1898 and died in 1980. He was an American jurist and politician who served as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of USA. Nominated by President D. Roosevelt, Douglas was one of the youngest justices appointed at the age of 40. He worked as a justice to the Supreme Court for more than 36 years, which is counted as the longest term in the history of Supreme Court. Theme of the chapter. It is not fear, but the fear of death scares us. Fight with fear, otherwise it will overpower you. With strong willpower and determination, fear can be conquered. Background. In this chapter, the author narrates an autobiographical incident that occurred when he was 10 or 11 years old. He was almost drowned in YMCA swimming pool. As a result, he developed a fear of water which he was able to conquer after several years by sheer determination. Explanation. The incident which the author is describing here is when he was 10 or 11 years old. He decided to learn to swim. The Yakima River was very dangerous. His mother used to warn him about it, but the YMCA pool was safe. So he joined YMCA pool to learn swimming. It was 2-3 feet deep at the shallow end and 9 feet deep at the other end. So the drop was gradual. He brought water wings to learn swimming. He said, I hated to show my skinny legs to others, but I subdued my pride and did it. It shows that he was willing to learn swimming. He was so willing to learn swimming that he controlled his pride and tried to learn. The author tells us that from the very beginning he had aversion or dislike for water. His aversion for water started when he was 2 or 3 years old. His father took him to the beach in California. He and his father were standing in the surf. The water waves knocked him down and swept over him. He was buried in water. His father enjoyed, but he was badly frightened. Initially, the YMCA pool revived his unpleasant memories and stirred childish fear. But then he started gathering confidence and tried to learn by aping or copying others. He was just beginning to feel at ease and a misadventure happened. To describe the misadventure, the author says that on that day when he went to the YMCA pool, no one was there. He was quiet and the water was still. He was afraid to go into the water alone, so he set aside to wait for others. A big bruiser of a boy of probably 18 years old came and yelled, "Hi, Skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" With that, he picked up and threw the author into the deep end of the water. He landed in a sitting position, swallowed water. He was frightened, but was not out of it. He planned when his feet hit the bottom, he would make a big jump, come up on the surface, lie flat on it, and would paddle to the edge of the pool. Those 9 feet were more like 90, and before reaching to the bottom, his lungs were about to burst. When his feet reached at the bottom, he summoned all his strength and hit the bottom. He thought that he would come up like a cork of a bottle, but he came up slowly. He was suffocating. He tried to cry, but no sound came. Then his eyes and nose come out of water, but his mouth he was still inside. He tried to bring his legs out, but they were hung, paralyzed and rigid. He started his long journey back to the bottom of the pool. His lungs ached. He, his head throbbed. He was getting dizzy, but he remembered the strategy to hit the bottom and come up like the cork to the surface. He went down and down. Sheer stark terror seized him. Terror that knows no understanding. Terror that knows no control. Terror that no one could understand who has not experienced it. Then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. He jumped with everything he had, but it made no difference. The water was still around him. The stark terror took even deeper hold on him. Again his eyes and nose were almost out of water, but then he started third time as he sucked for air and swallowed water. This time all his efforts ceased. He started feeling relaxed. Blackness swept over his brain, and he crossed to oblivion or forgetfulness. The curtain of life fell. Next, he found himself lying on his stomach beside the pool, vomiting. The boy who threw him was saying, "But I was only fooling." Someone said, "The kid nearly died. Be all right now. Let's carry him to the locker room." Several hours later, he went back home. He was trembling. He cried. He could not eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in his heart. He never went back to the pool. He feared water and avoided water whenever he could. As the years rolled by, due to his fear of water, all his fishing trips were ruined. It deprived him of the joy of canoeing, boating, and swimming. He didn't want to live with this handicap of fear of water. Finally, he decided to learn swimming. In October, he hired an instructor to learn swimming. He learned swimming 5 days in a week for an hour. The instructor put a belt around him. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. First, he taught him back and forth, then inhale, exhale. Next, he held him at the side of the pool and had him kick with his legs. Initially, he found it difficult. The terror returned to him and seized him, but gradually, by doing the repeated exercise, he was relaxed and finally he had command over all swimming skills. In this way, piece by piece, the instructor made him a perfect swimmer. And in April, he asked him to swim the length of the pool with crawl stroke. The author did, and the instructor was finished. But still, Douglas was not confident. He wondered if he would be terror stricken when being alone. He tried to swim the length of the pool all alone. Tiny vestiges of the old terror returned to him. But now he could frown and say, "Trying to scare me? Well, here is to you. Look." This went on until July. Then he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire and swam across it. In the middle of the water of the lake, when he put his face under the water, the old sensation returned to him in miniature. But now he could laugh and remove it by saying, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" And it fled. This shows that after learning swimming, when he faced the fear with strong willpower and determination, he was able to vanish it. To remove his residual doubts, he dived into the warm lake and swam across to the other shore and back, and shouted with joy that he had conquered his fear. In the end of the chapter, Douglas says that this experience had a deep meaning for him, and it can be appreciated only by those who have experienced and conquered the stark terror. As the author was almost dead after that misadventure, so he says that death is peaceful, but the fear of death is what is terrorizing. He reminds the lines told by President Roosevelt: "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." So he says that he had experienced terror, he had experienced near death, and these experiences were so enriching for him that after that he came to know the value of life. At last he was released, free to enjoy water and brush aside the fear. So, children, this was the explanation of the chapter. I hope you would have understood it. Here are some practice questions for you. First four questions you have to answer in 30 to 40 words, and the last one is a long answer question which you have to answer in 120 to 150 words. First question is, how did Douglas start aversion to water? Second, what was the misadventure which developed in Douglas' strong aversion or fear of water? When Question 3, when Douglas realized that he was sinking, how did he plan to save himself? Question 4, why was Douglas determined to get over his fear of water? Question 5, this is long answer. How did the instructor make Douglas a perfect swimmer? Okay, children, I hope you all will practice these questions at home. Thank you.